to the ArmChair GM podcast. Well, as it turns out, we can lose a major piece to injury, and we can still continue to roll with the being middle of the pack mantra that the Flames are. They've been what are we at for month of January? We're at what 3-3-1, I think is where we're at. No, that's not true at all.
3 losses.
3-3. Yeah, 3-3.
Yeah, 3-3.
Yeah, middle of the pack, baby.
As mid as it gets, but hey, here's the thing: when you start off as strong as the Flames did, what was it, 5-0-1? I think they started off, or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it can really help carry you through for a little while. Like, we've been super mediocre ever since then, and we're still 1 point up on Vancouver for that second wildcard spot. And even though we just lost to the Blues, we're still a few points up on them as well. So
yeah, 3 points up on them. It's the West is a weird beast this year. Some teams there that just are not looking up to snuff, and so it's benefited the Flames, I suppose, as far as potentially making the playoffs. But I mean, we'll see. There's still half a season left to play, so this will be a different looking standings, in my opinion, come April.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, right? There's some teams there that you can see doing a little bit better. Like, I could see, St. Louis doing a little bit better. There's quite a few teams in the East that I feel like could be doing a little bit better too. I don't think Utah is as bad as they've shown. And I actually think the Predators, they might not make the playoffs, but I think they're going to be in the race within 2 or 3 weeks from now.
You think they're going to make up 15 points in 2 or 3 weeks?
Well, they're going to be in the race, not there. They're going to put themselves in a position where they can get there.
I mean, I suppose it's possible. And we got 5 teams they'd have to jump.
Yeah.
I feel like any team that's not at least at 40 points at this time are not going to be in the conversation for wild card. That's just my opinion, though.
Either way.
And they have 35 points, which is 1 point ahead of the Sharks.
Yeah. Which is hilarious. The Sharks have been better than a lot of people have thought, but that doesn't mean that a team that went out and bought Jonathan Marchessault and Steven Stamkos and Brady Shea should be anywhere near them in the standings.
Right. Yeah.
Still kind of confused at why they did that. But remember a few weeks back we were talking about the Predators, and I was talking about how they have like a Stanley Cup winning center, and they just refused to play him at center, and they kept losing and weren't quite sure why their center depth was shit. And then they moved him to center, and then he started scoring, and then Forsberg started scoring, and then the team has put a few wins together. I think they may have lost their last one, but they've won a few recently. So
yeah,
maybe I should be a coach. I don't fucking know. Maybe I'll just be an armchair GM.
I was going to say, you can't go from armchair GM to coach. That's a downgrade. You don't need that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I find the Predators have, they've been it's weird. Like I'll say such a decent team for so many years. It's tough to consider them to be part of the bottom of the West, right?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It's weird seeing them down there, especially since, I had them definitely being, either the first wild card or one of the top teams in the Central going into the season. I think most people did. Now, I didn't like the moves they made because I mean they signed like I figured it would have been good for this year and maybe next, and then kind of as these guys start aging out, it would have been time for them to tank. But it turns out that they're just tanking
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah, I mean they've got a pretty easy schedule coming up right now in their situation. They got they got Chicago, the Minnesota, and then they have a home at home against the Sharks, and then Anaheim. So that's a pretty easy couple of weeks coming up, and then they finish the month off with Vancouver and Buffalo, which will be a little more difficult. But
Yeah,
I suppose with the Sharks twice and Chicago and Anaheim, I don't see them beating Minnesota, and I don't see them beating um, Vancouver per se or Buffalo. But I mean, they did beat Vancouver and at the beginning of the year, the day before they beat us. So
yeah,
it's hard to say. I don't I don't take a lot of stock in where they are in the standings. I do think they're a better team, but yeah, it's hard to say. They're going to need
yeah,
goaltending. Basically, is what it's going to come down to for them.
absolutely.
S-
Well,
Speaking
let's
of
get in.
goaltending, what do you think of our tandem so far in the month of January? We've already talked about them previous, but I think it's been pretty quiet on the goaltender front in the last couple of weeks, right?
Well, I mean, in the last week, they've let in 2, 1, 2, and 2. So that's not bad. Um, I
Yep.
think the anti Vladar stuff is a little bit ridiculous that's been going on. Like he's not
Mhm.
he's not a starter. He's not really even a 1B. He's a backup, but um freaking out every time he plays is getting absolutely ridiculous to me.
It's tiring for sure.
Like your backup plays like people were complaining that that he was starting against St. Louis, and it's like, well, the day before they played in Chicago
Mm.
and Wolf played, and then 2 days before that they played in LA or in Calgary,
Oh,
and
yeah,
Wolf
against LA.
played, and they're playing again tomorrow in St. Louis, and Wolf's probably going to play that one. So, what do you want Wolf to play 1, 2, 3, 4 games in 6 days? Like
Well, exactly.
even Prime Kiprasov like would have had Henrik Carlson or who the fuck ever playing a game in this stretch.
Yeah, exactly. And, when you're doing 3 games in 4 nights, um, the person that is likely the starter is going to need a day off. I mean, that's just how that is, right? You know,
Yeah,
he'd
a
already
hundred
he'd already
percent.
played 2 games in 3 days. He needed a day off, and I mean, as it is right now, he's basically picking up about 2/3 of the games. That is Wolf. That is, and so I like what Ryan's doing right now. But at the beginning of the year, it was kind of trade off when he had Wolf playing most of the home games. He wasn't really playing many of the road games. But they were definitely more even as far as games played. But now he definitely given the ball to Wolf to see what he can do with it, which is what you should be doing, right?
Yeah.
To see what you have. Do we have a starter in the making here or not? Right. So it's
Hmm.
the only way you're going to find out.
And it's funny. I was listening to the radio earlier today, and they were talking about what the expectation would be for Wolf and how you know
Mhm.
what people think he will be in the future. And I've always been, maybe not always, but for the past few years anyways, with young players, I've kind of been a temper expectations type of guy.
Right.
And I think the way that Wolf is played, and like I know you're not maybe on the exact same page as I am, but I think the way that Wolf's played and the way he's shown to be so calm and collected and, you know, winning lots, even though maybe not every game is against the best teams or whatever. Um, but I think tempered expectations at this point are he will be the starting goaltender for the Flames for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I think that's definitely the way it's trending for sure. I
yeah,
mean, and last Saturday he beat a team that's in the playoffs, so and only allowed one goal, right?
and quite
Uh,
frankly, like, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember that you're talking about the Kings game, right?
mhm.
Yeah, like, and at the first period of that game, if I am correct, I believe the Kings had like 14 shots in the first 10 minutes of the game, and the Flames only had like four.
Yeah, well, and they scored, 6 minutes into the game, and then Wolf shut the door for the rest of it.
And like one goal on 32 shots. And it's not like they were just, throwing in random shots all the time. I thought that a lot of the shots, especially in the first half of the game that Wolf faced, were of the high quality variety. And
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I
Now
agree. No,
talking
he's
about that Kings game, how about Matt Coronado? He has been like a dog on a bone for the past several weeks and is absolutely absolutely killing it. He's rifling goals. He's up to 10 goals on the season now. He's making defensive plays. He's making offensive plays, whether it's scoring goals, finding soft areas, kind of like Yegor Sharangovich was doing last year. But I think he's got more fight in him when it comes to board battles and stuff like that than Sharangovich. But he's, like I said, he's really good at finding those soft areas, and he's also really good at finding his teammates. I think his passing is a little bit underrated, but Matt Coronado has really, really been impressing me lately.
he really has. I mean, he's kind of doing the playing for a contract type style where he's lighting it up, and it's not just how he's able to get results. It's just his effort, with and away from the puck that has been really noticeable. I think his time with Backlund and Coleman has elevated his game to a point where he's now a middle six forward for the Calgary Flames.
Oh,
Without any hesitation, he's not going anywhere.
no, I don't think so either. Then if he keeps playing this way, like, I think you could call him a top six forward for the most part, like, especially with the amount of minutes that line gets, and the fact that since Zeri's been out, Coronado's been on the first power play. Um,
Right.
and
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah, and like even that Kings game, he got a power play assist on Huberdeau's game winning goal, which was actually pretty much created. That whole play was pretty much created by Coronado, and Huberdeau just pulled a nice spinning move on a rebound and
Mhm.
I mean it was a really nice spinning move. Um,
Yeah, I was going to say, don't discredit that move. That was
yeah,
nice.
yeah, it was a nice move,
Yeah.
and I'm not discrediting Huberdeau at all this year. By the way, I think he's been great this year.
He's had a great year. Yeah, it's good to see. I mean, it's still, it's not great that 32 points is the leader, but 32 points is the leader with Jonathan Huberdeau, 18 goals. He's been he looks he's just playing a lot better. He's feeling it. He's in the right areas. I love his play in front of the net. I mean, I had no idea that he could be that effective, and he's really goddamn effective in front of the net.
I don't think he knew he could be effective in that because I
Sure.
don't think he ever has been. Like I don't think that's ever been his MO, right? And I think he just kind of started doing that this year, and I don't know if it was a challenge from the coaching staff or not, but I mean, however he came upon it, maybe he just realized he was collecting rebounds and getting them in and tipping pucks and um that defenders were having a hard time moving him and stuff like that. And he was just like, "Hey, maybe that's just what I'll do from now on." I don't know what
Yeah.
happened, but it's working and it's fun to watch.
Really is. I mean, he's already like he's very difficult to move off the puck as it is, and he's not afraid to get dirty. So, I mean, it's a perfect spot for him right now. If he's struggling, playing the game that has kind of got him to where he is in his career, then you have to make a move, right? You have to do something different, and he's finally doing something different, and it's paying off.
Yeah. And another thing with Huber though too, a couple weeks ago he was a -12 and now he's a -7. Now obviously that's not great, but the you know he's been improving when it comes to that. And you know what I just noticed? Matt
Mm.
Coronado leads the team in plus minus at +10.
Really?
Yeah. And then Backlund at 7, and then Uyghur at 6, and Mantha at 6, and Kirkland at 6, and Peltier at 6.
That's that's interesting. I mean, how many games has Mantha played? 13.
13. Yeah. And
Yeah.
Coronado's played, you know, he missed 5 games when he was down with the Wranglers, and, you know,
Yeah,
only
that's
13
true.
penalty minutes. Like he's, I believe, let me look at this. I think he's third on the team in points. Yeah. 23 points in 38 games, 10 goals, +10. Pretty
I mean, the
decent.
fact that we have a defender that plays well over 20 minutes a game at +6 is pretty impressive in my opinion.
Yeah, man, I've always really liked Mackenzie Weegar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just stable, right? He's a very intelligent hockey player, and I don't think he gets enough credit outside of where he's playing.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets enough credit with our own fan base, to be honest with you.
Weegar? I
Yeah.
think a lot of people really love Weegar, man. I'm not sure if you're not maybe just not seeing it, but I see it all the time. People fucking love Weegar here.
Mm, that's good.
Moving on. Flames roll into Chicago. Wolf gets the
Do they
start.
ever?
And quite frankly, Chicago's not a real hockey team. But I want to point this out. As Flames fans, we should know that over the past, I don't know, 10, 15 years, the Flames have notoriously played absolute shit hockey against bottom dwellers. It's cost the Flames playoff spots. It's cost the Flames spots in the standings when it comes to home seating. When they do make the playoffs, it's kicked off tough stretches. It's been really hard to watch. Like a lot of the time, you and I went to a game against Chicago a couple years back, and it was like I think still to this day, like Jonathan Huberdeau made the nicest move he's made as a Flame and scored in that game, but the rest of it was absolute shit. And the Hawks beat us, you know, when they were tanking. So the fact that we have a team right now that doesn't take like they might not win against every bottom dweller, but they win the vast majority of games against the bottom dwellers, and they don't lay off the gas, and they tend to beat most of them, is actually really good in my opinion. And I know that
Well,
that's a low bar or whatever, but you know it's a
well,
small
yeah,
little
yeah,
thing that goes a long way. A quarter of the teams in the league are bottom dwellers. So
yeah, yeah. You have to find some light in what's happening, right? And you're absolutely correct. Teams that we should be beating notoriously in the past were shitting the bed, playing to their level, I think is what they call it, all that fun stuff. But you're right, this year they're they're beating the teams they should, and for the most part are competitive against the teams that are better than them, or
yeah,
or or sometimes winning, right?
yeah.
So it's yeah, no, it's that part's refreshing for sure. Between that and any team can bring up some random player that nobody's heard of, and he's going to either get his first NHL point or first goal or first something against the Flames. Those are the two things you could always bank. Is that happening, or the Flames losing to a garbage team?
Yeah, like that's still happening, by the way. Like the Kings, Jacob Moveri. I don't even know
I'd
how to say
never.
his name. I pay attention like league wide, and I try and learn people's names and all that type of stuff. And I have no fucking clue who this guy is, and he scored against us.
Yeah, that was the first time I had heard of him when he scored.
Yeah,
He's a
um,
defender, though. Right?
yeah, I believe so.
Mm.
So
He's played
the Chicago
68
game,
games.
the Flames had brought up Rory Cairns for the LA game, but he was a healthy scratch, and then he swung into the start of the game against the Blackhawks. In his first shift, set up Jacob Peltier for a goal, and then set up Jacob Peltier for another goal later in the period.
Yep.
And honestly, like besides the points, I thought Cairns has played very well when it comes to poise and defensive positioning and just comfort level. I think that
Yeah.
I think I don't want to call it too early or whatever, but I think he belongs. I don't know if he's going to stick around once Sari gets back or whatever, but I think he belongs in the NHL. He looks like he's an NHL player. Only 2 games in given, so we don't know, but he's looking good.
He looked great. He has definite chemistry with Pelche. Obviously, Pelche spending so much time on the Wranglers in the last couple of years would, make sense that he's going to build some chemistry there. But you can tell that they're friends. They really like each other. They like playing with each other. That first shift and just confidence, and he knew where Pelche was going to be when he dropped that puck, right?
Oh, absolutely.
He just came in, and it was like 12 seconds into his first NHL shift, and then just a great setup and even better shot by Pelche.
Yeah. And then the next one that they scored, at that point it was 1-1, and
Yeah.
Pelche scores again from Ball and Cairns, and that was just a nice little rebound play that Pelche
Mhm.
got on a stick and shot. I think he got 2 shots off on that and um, threw it in the back, which was
Yeah.
nice. Nice to see Pelche get off the schneid. I know. I think Pelche is what he is at this point. I don't think he's gonna wow us and become a top 6 forward or anything like that. I think he's a perfectly serviceable third line player. Um,
Yeah.
but it's nice to see him playing so well over the past few games. And I think honestly, I think he's been playing fairly well for a while now. And it's just nice to see.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Peltier led all forwards in ice time against the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
crazy.
to be fair, they kind of sat Kadri and Huberto down um, for a little while that game at the end because it was, I think for most of the third period, they were just kind of up and they decided to let the big guns rest for a little while.
Hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. That makes sense. Yeah, I just think that's interesting. That I mean, they played well, so why wouldn't you give it to Pelche? At that point, he had already scored 2 goals, so
Yeah.
might as well reward him with ice.
plus your goalie Dustin Wolf was playing so well that game. Like, I don't think the Hawks didn't play that well or anything like that, but I do think that Dustin Wolf still had to make some really nice saves and did make some really nice saves.
Yeah.
But your goalie was playing well, and Mrazek was kind of playing like shit. Now Mrazek has actually had a pretty decent couple years in Chicago. Like, his stats aren't bad considering the team
So,
he's playing on.
yeah.
So, but he was absolutely ass against us, which is good because it also got, Jake Bean. Like, we got three players who were snake bitten off their schneids, right? Like Peltier with the 2 goals, Jake Bean with the nice goal there, and Sharon Govich with the he couldn't believe that Mrazek played that shorthanded goal so badly.
Right. Yeah. There's there's a lot of one-sidedness to that game.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of one-sidedness, the game afterwards, man alive, that was painful to watch. That
Yeah, for some
that
reason,
first
Cody
20 minutes.
Parayko has our number this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that game against the Blues was abysmal. Um, for the first 37 minutes of the game, it was the ice was tilted in one direction only. It was I was getting kind of frustrated. It seemed like our effort was nil, but in reality they were just simply outplayed in every aspect. In the corners, in the middle of the ice, all three zones. It was just one-sided.
I think it's really telling that the kind of like us, but the Blues can outplay another team so handily for the first half or over half of the game, and
Mhm.
really not have very little to show for it. I think they kind of have a similar finishing ability and skill as us, although they do randomly pop off for 6 goals sometimes. But for the most part, they're kind of a low scoring team that relies on their big hulking defensemen to help out the snap case of a goalie
Mhm.
in Bennington, right?
I mean, which is weird, right? Because they do have a number of players that I feel could be, top, you know, top 20 in the league for scoring, top 10 even a couple of them.
Thomas
But
and
they just,
Cairo mostly.
yeah. I mean, even Pareko. I mean, he seems to only do it against us, but he looks good on the ice. Like I'm surprised he isn't higher up in the because I think he's only got 9 goals now. So that's really that's interesting to me
I mean,
because
he's
I
on
mean
pace
when he
for
played,
18, and he's a defensive defenseman, right? Like
yeah,
that's pretty good for a defensive guy.
yeah, that's true. But he's got a decent shot. I'll give him that. But yeah,
Yeah,
that was very one sided. Yeah, and it's tough to watch. A goalie that a lot of the fan base doesn't like to begin with in that situation. So I mean, like Vladar played well. He played
Vladar
really
was
well.
completely underwater for
Yeah,
the first half of that game, if not longer. And he
that's
held the team in it. Like, I thought Vladar played very well for the first half of the game there. At even the second half of the game, I thought he had a really good game, one of his best games of the season. And you're
mhm,
still seeing the calls for Wolf and the why wasn't Wolf playing, you know, and it's like,
yeah.
well, first of all, look at the schedule, and second of all, what happened last night. Like,
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, back-to-back nights, Chicago, 25 shots, 2 goals. Blues,
Yeah,
25 shots, 2 goals. There was a difference in that game, though, and it was a very stark difference. The fact that he held him to 1 goal for, the first 40, was it like 45 minutes? It was like first 50 minutes. He held him to 1 goal.
yeah,
And the fan base, that's not good enough for the fan base, apparently.
yeah.
That's that's outrageous in my opinion.
I agree. Um,
Mm.
but then Kevin Ball with the nice goal too. It's nice to see him. I think I was saying this during the game last night, but I think Kevin Ball's earned himself, you know, 150K just over the last 2 games with how well he's played over the last couple.
Yeah, it's funny because I saw you say that in the Flames Hub chat, um, and I thought the first 10 minutes of the game he was not good at all. He was struggling, but he buckled down and became the ball that we've kind of been watching for this season and again, which was good. But he was coughing up the puck. He was having a hard time holding his own, and it was painful to watch because it's one of the first times I've really seen it from him,
Yeah,
at least on like in a span of time, right? He did it a couple times, and I was like, oh, here we go. But then he definitely turned it around, which is good.
yeah.
Have you played Pick Six from DraftKings yet? What are you waiting for? You better get in on it. The playoffs are here and time is running out. As the official daily fantasy sports partner of the NFL, DraftKings does fantasy sports like no one else. Play for better payouts on Pick Six. It's super easy to get started. Select 2 or more players. Choose if they'll have more or less of any stat, like touchdown, yardage, sacks, and more. Pick Six is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. The DraftKings is making it even sweeter for first timers. New Pick Six customers pay $5, get $50 in Pick Six credits. Win more cash on Pick Six. Download the DraftKings Pick Six app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to pay $5, get $50 in Pick Six credits. Only at DraftKings Pick Six. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
So obviously the Flames dropped that one 2-1. The late goal by Radek Faksa of all people.
Mhm.
But I'm curious how you feel about this, like, because the Flames were obviously in St. Louis last night, and they're still in St. Louis playing tomorrow. How do you feel about that scheduling?
I dislike it a lot. Um, I feel like if they're going to do something like that, it needs to be in the same division, so it's that you can build that rivalry or whatever the NHL is trying to do in this situation. It's weird. I'm not a fan of it.
See, I actually think it would be better if it was not like if there was an Eastern team that you played more than once in their building,
Mm.
if you played them twice, because you're in the middle of a road trip, staying in the same place for a couple of days is probably
Yeah.
really good for them and probably really good for the overall travel. It's good for the players, right? Um, and I actually don't mind like when it comes to the rivalry thing. Like I wouldn't mind having a rivalry with the Blues either, right? I do see where you're coming from though, but I also think it's good for the players to not have to just get on the plane
Back-
instantly every day. You know?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's only it's 4 games in a week, right? So it's not like they're. I mean, yes, they did have the back-to-back in there, but I mean, and the schedule, like the travel isn't that bad, right?
Yeah.
Like Chicago to St. Louis to Winnipeg and then back home, and then after the Winnipeg, you've got 4 days off.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I'm sure that's just
yeah,
how it worked
their
out.
schedule's kind of weird. Their schedule's pretty weird this year, especially the month of January, right? You know, if you can have 4 days off and a back to back, I think somebody's, or I guess potentially it should have been 2 back to backs, but obviously the one Kings game was postponed. Yeah, I think having a 4 days off as well as potentially 2 back to backs in a month is poor planning in my opinion, but here's what it is. I'm sure they'll appreciate those 4 days.
Oh, for sure.
Mm.
So Saturday, hockey day in Canmore.
You love those, don't you?
Well, it's
Oh, it's
only
fine. It's 5
it's only
o'clock, so
5
it's not bad.
o'clock. It's 5
Yeah.
o'clock Mountain, so it's 4 o'clock my time. That I won't. Oh, I'll probably get up to watch it, but yeah, it's no. Sometimes those early games are a little rough for me, but I'll get up to watch it. But I do like how they have started doing it in like little towns. Not the Canmore's a little town, but in little
Mhm.
communities that aren't cities around. Around the place, like around the cities where the teams actually play, but not actually in the cities. Um,
Mm.
and like my sister lives in Canmore with her kids, and they've got tickets. Like it's like a 3-day thing. They've got tickets to an
Mhm.
alumni game. They've got tickets to, well, not even tickets. I think Lanny and Glencross are going to the school, both of my niece's schools on separate days over the next
Nice.
couple days, um, to speak. I don't really know what on, but I think that that's really good exposure, and I think it's really good for kids as well, especially
Mhm.
when it's people like good quality people like that talking.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Lanny and Glenn Cross are really good for stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're both very family oriented individuals. So no, that's great. It's good that they're doing like actually going to the schools too, right? Because it's you're gonna just you're gonna build better culture. You're gonna get kids interested in the game, especially if, I'm sure there'll be a bunch that are born and raised in the Canmore area, have never had the opportunity to go to an NHL game, so they're gonna love it. Yeah.
totally agree. Totally agree. Um, and yeah, that night, on Saturday they'll be playing against the Jets, which will be a tough game. I mean,
Mm.
last time I checked,
Yeah.
basically the
Jets.
Vesna is a one horse race, and it's basically just Hellebuck and nobody else at this point in the season, and he's you know absolutely lights out, and the rest of the team in front of him has been really good too. So
Mm.
yeah, that should be a tough test for the Flames.
Yeah, it's going to be an extremely tough game, and it'll come after what I think will also be a tough game against the Blues. So they may need those extra days off when they get back to town.
Yeah, I mean the Jets play a pretty tough game as well
Yeah.
when it comes to like they've the Dylan DeMellos of the world, and even Morrissey and some of their forwards are pretty Adam Lowry and those guys are pretty physical. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are second in the league, so I
yeah.
suppose our buddy Matt will love that game anyways, because his favorite team will definitely win.
Yeah, yeah. Whether the Flames win or the Jets win. um are we just gonna make it a thing to mention Matt on every episode, or
Probably should have. If we don't, then Ash has got to go to the corner. But
that's true. I wanted to talk a little bit about the quarter century teams because um, I feel like you're the type of guy who probably doesn't care a whole bunch, but also knows the team really, really well from all of these eras over the last 25 years.
Mm.
So I'm
I can
curious
give
how
a
you
shot
feel about them.
about
Do
the
you
quarter
remember?
century. Not even a
So
little bit.
okay. So the first team, there's two teams, right? And the first team is Johnny Gaudreau, Jerome McGinley, Matthew Tkachuk, Mark Giordano, Robin Regier, and Mika Kiprasov.
Right.
I always find it weird when they do that without a center, but
That was they showed that up on the screen in the broadcast the other night, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I left the room. I had to go do something, so I didn't get to see it at all.
Okay. As far as like the best players of the past 25 years, I do think that that's pretty much it, right? Like putting
That sounds
yeah,
about right.
there's no center there, but also like there's no center that belongs in the same, conversation as Gaudreau, Iginla, or Kachuk anyways. So that kind of makes sense.
Mhm.
Giordano, obviously Norris winner, um, captain of the team for a long time. Robin Regier, I don't know if you saw the after hours they did with Regier, Conroy, and Anderson, but Regier, I just love the way that guy speaks. I know you actually have known him personally in the past, haven't you?
I've met him a couple times. Yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
No, he's a really good human being.
mhm.
But as far as his play on the ice, I'm a big fan of Robin Regier. I mean, he is exactly how I mold defensemen. He's literally one of the players, one of the defensemen that I compare today's defenseman to.
Yeah,
And
I
you know,
agree.
that,
Um, I think I like obviously Kiprasov's there, and there's no second guessing that he's
no.
easily the best goalie in franchise history, in my
Mhm.
opinion. It was funny, Regier talking on After Hours. They asked him about Alish Hemsky because there was the one year where Regier kept leveling Hemsky and kind of had a vendetta against him.
Yeah.
And he said that they actually have played they played a like alumni charity game against the
Nice.
Oilers alumni once, and it was non-contact, and he almost didn't want to play because he couldn't hit Hemsky.
There, I can't remember. He told the story about why it became a thing. It was really funny. Like something happened and it became a thing, and it pretty much just made it his mission to take him out every chance he got.
Yeah,
And it wasn't just once. Like he did that for a number of years. It was great.
yeah,
That he just brutalized Hemsky behind the net. Like, it was
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Um, and then the second team, I feel like this one you might have a little bit more to say about. Michael Backlund, Craig Conroy, Sean Monahan, three centers,
Hmm.
Rasmus Anderson, Dion Phaneuf, and Jacob Markstrom.
Jesus. So I need to ask, what is the criteria? Okay, this quarter century, so they're just going back 25 years from now.
Yeah, and I don't think there was a criteria. Like it wasn't. It was whoever the voter was got to choose their own criteria. So it wasn't like
Mm.
statistical or impact on community it was whatever you thought, whatever the
Oh,
voter
okay.
thought was. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Enough?
Yeah. So obviously Dion Phaneuf had some absolutely lights out years in Calgary. He was
Yeah.
wasn't he a Norris finalist a couple years?
He's Norris finalist, and he was rookie of the year finalist too, wasn't he?
Yeah, I believe so. And I mean, he shattered the glass with his shots. Like he was a really good player for us for a few years. And I just think that the 25-year, like I feel like the reason he was there in the quarter century thing is
Mhm.
because like who else, right? Like
I guess, right?
like to me it would be fucking Bowmeister or Brody would be the only other two who could even be mentioned.
Yeah, that's scary, isn't it?
Yeah. And like you know me, I'm a huge Brody fan, but Brody is not never really was in the same conversation as Fanouf or Anderson, in my opinion. Like I'm a huge
No.
Brody fan, but and I'm a huge Bowmeister fan too. I could have probably put Bowmeister in instead of either one of these guys, but I like it how it is, honestly. And Backlund, um, second most games played in franchise history. He's only about 2 seasons away from passing Iginla.
Yeah.
Obviously, captain. Gotta love that. Huge, huge, huge in the community. Starting lots of different initiatives and charities and all that type of stuff, and always big in the community.
Mhm.
Conroy obviously was around for quite a few years, rode shotgun with the best player in franchise history, and uh, you know,
Yeah.
obviously has stayed in the organization and worked his way up to being the big dog in the organization. And
That's something
Sean
else. I
Monahan,
think that's great.
yeah, and Sean Monahan, I think that um, I loved Monahan for many years until his last year or so, when he 2 years maybe, when he just couldn't skate anymore. And it's not that you didn't like the guy; like he was still a great leader. He was still a great
Mhm.
presence, but he just couldn't really skate anymore. It's nice to see what he's doing in Columbus now, even though he's out, I think, for 6 weeks or something.
Is he
But
really?
yeah, he sprained his wrist.
Sean, damn it. He was having a great season too.
Yeah, he's a dark horse Selkie candidate this year. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, like if he was still playing, he potentially may get more votes just given the scenario, right?
yeah,
Like he actually would have a chance to win it, I think, just given how the off season went as far as his, one of his best friends.
yeah.
That's too bad.
And
I didn't know that he was out.
yeah. But I mean, I have no real problem with this list. I don't know. Do you
Mhm.
know? Like, can you think of any other forwards or defensemen that would belong in the same categories here? Like, I know Pat was talking about Huselius maybe not being on the list, but maybe being up next. Um,
Christian Ucelia, Stefan Yell.
Mark
How do
Savard,
we
like
how do we not put the eliminator on that list? Martin Jelena.
Jelena. How long did he play for us? He didn't play for us that long,
Not
did
long,
he?
just a couple of years. No, not very long.
Yeah.
It's probably because he played for the Oilers, right? So we can't put him on there.
Yeah, like he played for the Oilers for years and the Canucks for years. He only played for us for 2 years. Like he played for the Canucks for like 5, 6 years and the Oilers for
Mm.
4 years, and he played for us for 2 years, right? And actually,
Yeah.
one of those years, oh no, that was still, yeah, no, 2003 was still would have been in the time frame, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But I mean, when it comes to clutch goals, there was none better. So I could see where you're coming from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's literally the reason why I'll say 60% of the fan base exists today.
Yeah.
Without
Well,
him and his
maybe not
score
60,
and his
maybe
goals
like
in overtime, the fan base in Calgary was abysmal before 04.
yeah.
It was crickets. You could pick whatever chair you wanted at the Dome. There was no fans. And all
Yeah.
this, you see it all the time now. I've been a fan since day one. Well, where the fuck were you in the 90s?
Yeah.
But because of that run, all of a sudden Calgary was the best thing since sliced bread again. And I think Martin Jelena is between him and Iginla and Kiprusoff, that playoff run was fun
The
for a
reason.
lot of people. Yeah. So put them back on the map.
Yeah. And finally, just the last guy I wanted to talk about here was Jacob Markstrom. Like, I think that he is undoubtedly the second best goalie we've had in the last 25 years.
Mhm.
But the other options would be like post Vertigo, Jonas Hiller and Kerry Ramo
Right.
and Yoni Ordio and like like
That's terrifying. That's a lot of backup. Who
Brian
who
Elliott.
was the
Like
who was the goaltender for the first group again? It was Kiprusoff, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And like who else, right? Like, and I'm not trying to disparage Markstrom because he was a Vezina finalist for one of the years he was here. He was
Mhm.
I actually thought he was really good for the vast majority of last year. He did have a couple of bad years as well, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like there's a wealth of choices, right? It's just basically Kiprusoff and Markstrom and fucking Mike Smith and Brian Elliott,
Yeah.
Kerry Ramo.
Yeah. It's very slim pickings after you get past Kiprusoff, right?
Yeah.
Very slim pickings.
I always remember how
So
excited everyone was when Hiller had a good game, and I was like, but that wasn't a good game. He was terrible. He just wasn't as he was
it
just
just wasn't
wasn't
as
as
bad as
bad.
normal.
Yeah.
Just wasn't as bad. I remember at the end of his final season, I saw him downtown Calgary maybe a week after, something like that.
Yeah.
And and he looks at me and I look at him and he gives me a nod and I just kind of gave him the, fucking get your ass out of Calgary. Beat it. We don't want you here anymore. Kind of look, right?
Yeah.
He just put his head down and just kept walking. I felt like such an asshole. I was like, man, I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't have done that, but
I mean, I don't think it
I'm
was
just,
his fault either. It was terrible management. Like he already wasn't good when he was a project, right?
yeah,
And he was signed for a while for too much money and he was a project, right? And
yeah,
it's not like that's his fault that management decided to do that.
yeah. No, for sure. For
Um,
sure. It was a weird time, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. So how do you feel about Anderson being on that list?
I don't mind it. I'm fine with it.
Like,
Why wouldn't you? Like he's been on the team for quite a number of years. He's been on the first pairing for majority of it. I don't have any problem with him being on the list. I mean, again, once you get past the top three, we're going as far as like Phaneuf, right? So it's not like the well was runneth over with elite defenders since or in the last 25 years, right?
yeah, no, 100%. And Anderson had a couple of bad years, but I think he's been much better this year. and he had a few really good years before that where he looked like he was trending to becoming possibly a number one, like with a bullet.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
I don't have a problem with them being there, to be honest.
and I think that while we're on the topic of Anderson, I think the fact that he things like the stare, finding an opposing fan in
Yeah,
the
that
crowd and
was fun.
staring them.
He needs to score again because it's been a while.
Yeah, 100%. And also things like talking about how much he hates Vancouver and Edmonton. Like, obviously, you're going to say that when you're a Flame, but also he wasn't
I think
asked.
he means it.
He wasn't asked a question that required that answer. He
Right.
just said it.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and that's why he's one of the fan favorites, right?
Yeah,
And he knows, he gets it. He understands what it means to be a Calgary Flame.
yeah.
With answers like that, he gets it. He understands.
Yeah.
He's
And I
he's he's an emotional player. He's an intelligent player. His sense of humor is fantastic, right?
it's
And
dry as
we're
fuck, but
seeing
it's
that
great.
this year. Yeah, we're really seeing it this year, and I'm all in for it. I think it's great.
Me too. And I think it
Mm.
says a lot too that it looks like he wants to stay. I don't think that we'd be hearing all these reports of Rasmus Anderson, of the Flames having no interest in trading Rasmus Anderson if
Yeah,
they had had conversations and Rasmus had said, that he was thinking about leaving, or basically said anything besides I'm you know I'm
yeah. I
probably gonna
mean,
stay, right?
I don't have that same thought. That's literally just what teams say. Nobody from the team is going to go, "Oh yeah, we're shopping them," because then you're just lowering the stock. Nobody's going to say that. They're always going to say we're not interested in trading the player every time. So
Um,
I don't really buy into that part
except
so
for
much. But
Buffalo and
yeah, well, Buffalo was a spaz.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think the I think Anderson was a good addition to that list, and I do want to see him stay. Like, I don't want to see him signed to forever for way too much, but I would love to see a 5-6 year deal, like take him to 35, 36. Maybe that might be a little bit too long, but
yeah,
but I'd love to see him stay because he's a Calgary Flame. He's always been a Calgary Flame. I think that either him or Uyghur are probably next in line for the captaincy once Backlund leaves. I think
yeah,
that he's a culture guy when it comes to the way he deals with the media, the way he deals with the team, the way that he is involved with everything, and just his attitude and his uh, grit and his passion.
yeah. No, he plays with a lot of emotion, and he's a natural leader. So,
Yeah,
if he ends up with a C on his chest, it would not bother me in the least.
yeah, me neither.
Mm. Same with Uyghur. If I had a choice, I would say Uyghur myself, but if it ended up going to Anderson, I'd be perfectly okay with that.
How would you feel about the cycle, like the old McDonald Poplinski days?
Uh, not much. No,
Well, wasn't it?
no.
Was it McCrimmon as well? I can't remember who else it was. There was three of them, wasn't there? Who got
Yeah,
the captaincy cycled between them?
was it Poplinski, Donald, and I'm trying to think.
Was it
Um,
McInnes?
no,
No, because he
McInnes
would
was
have
an
been like
A.
a rookie.
I can't even think of who it was. It was probably something like Tim Hunter.
Could have been.
I can't remember.
Well,
Did you find it?
hello? What's that?
Did you find it?
No, I'm trying to. Lanny McDonald, Jim Poplensky. Was it just the two? It looks like it was just the two.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's just lack of commitment by the coach. Too afraid. Be a man. Pick your captain.
Yeah. Just make everybody a captain.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
We're just all born leaders here. Everybody leads the team.
Yeah. I mean, oddly enough, I was looking at that and I only saw C's and I didn't see any A's, and I'm pretty sure there was some A's. So I don't know.
Yeah, McInnes was an A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
On that
Flames
note,
have
I think, right?
Yeah, Flames have a big game tomorrow, like we said, against the St. Louis Blues. If you lose, you let them right back in the race. They'll be fairly close to us if we lose. So
Yep.
definitely have to put the pedal down and keep it down all game. Thanks for listening. Make sure you smash that subscribe button and like and subscribe, all that type of stuff. And check out Rocky Mountain Maniacs on Facebook or Instagram or Spotify, whatever, the band that does our entrance music. So yeah, do all those things and go Flames.
Do it. Go Flames.